Hello, friends. Welcome to my show, internet show called Ad-hoc Ranting. This is a very short video just to alert the folks who listen and take their input from news organizations or outlets, media outlets, and so on. The status quo has changed. Cold War is back in full gear. Driven by something similar to that psychotic man, those psychotic men, Lenin, Stalin, and so on and so forth. And Pu-Stalinin is no different. The guy is psychotic, and the Cold War is back. His designs are basically against Europe in general, and he helped Iran in the Middle East, basically. He was helping Iran because Iran faltered in taking over the Middle East. You remember I told you about this tripod of Israel, Chinese regime, Iran's regime, and Russian regime, and they help each other. Of course, now, for example, China is supporting Putin, and by order of Israel, of course, financially and in anything else. So is the United States, and so is England, and so is Western Europe, right? And their table, of course. You do not probably you do not notice, but that's the case. They're turning their face away, and they're flabbergasted. They're basically shocked that the plan didn't go as the operation didn't go as planned. To be finished in a few days, and everybody goes home happy. And those goyim, I mean, those people in the animal farms. Oh, I'm sorry. Those animals in the animal farms are now put back into their proper place, back into the barns, and out in the open, and that house will be reclaimed by the house in the farm that used to be Mr. Eunice or Jones will be reclaimed by Moses the Crow. But now Moses the Crow, whenever he counts his stolen money, he bobs his head and crows, like with happiness and so on. He cannot have tears because he doesn't have that system that we human have, that tears. But nonetheless, back to our original story. So NATO and the United States and other forces are basically looking the other way and lethargic. Not because they don't understand the situation, folks, but because they are part and parcel of what's going on. Now, all this donations of weapons and so on, lightweight weapons, is really to pull wool before your eyes, meaningly, they're distracting the public that they're so and so. No. Basically, that's what it is. Now, today I read a report saying that that PM of Israel told the leaders of Ukraine that they need to accept Putin's plan for ceasefire. Well, I was vindicated. I told you about Israel being behind all this that is going on in Russia and Iran and China, and now Russia, for example, relevant to Europe. And maybe you guys didn't believe me. Some of the comments that I got back were outwardly and so on, but now it is proven as to why they would intervene in Ukraine and talk to Ukrainian leadership about Ukraine. But here's the deal, folks, about accepting Pu-Stalinin's terms. Pu-Stalinin. For all I know, Putin may be deepfake because I heard a year and a half ago or 2 years, I don't know, that he had like intestinal cancer, and that they were struggling in selecting someone to replace him. For me, it doesn't matter. He is no different from Bin Laden, no different from Stalin, no different from Hitler, no different from Assad, no different from Ayatollahs, no different from Baghdadi. Oh, for me, they're all the same, really. And they're all that posse, all that group of people is responsible for all the bloodshed that has happened, whether it's in Chechnya or Georgia or Kazakhstan or Syria or anywhere else. I'm not going to blame Pu-Stalinin himself for what happened. He is part and parcel of what happened, and that's basically what I'm talking about here. But now you folks, ordinary citizen, pay attention to what I'm going to say, and that is you've been taken on a ride, like a ride of silence and distraction and so on and so forth, while a new uh, uh, negative utopia, or some people say dystopia, is being prepared for you in Europe. Now you may say, well, Russians don't live like that, but you know what I'm talking about. In Russia, there's poverty, there's hopelessness. That's it, basically. It is the concept of communism, consume what you need and give all to the state being Israel, right? Now they call it all kind of names, right? Establishment, but at the end, on the top of that tripod, sits that very small Babylonian harlot called Israel. That's it, basic and simple. That's what's going on. I told you that before. I'm telling you that again. Now, you NATO leaders, I don't know, but you NATO people need to wake up, and you cannot wait for your establishment or your or your or your leadership to sink the ship, scuttle your ship, whether it's Germanic or Scandinavian or anything else. So that's what I'm talking about, folks. Now the landscape has changed, militarily speaking, meaningly. In Afghanistan, a new warfare has been devised in this world, right? How to beat, and I call it, say, how to beat a superpower, right? Afghanistan was a combination of Arab fighters as well as Afghan fighters, and few from here and there, but mainly that's what it was, and they, with their warfare systems and persistence and phase and so on, they destroyed the Soviet Union. Now they speak of Qaeda, Qaeda coming and, defeating Soviet Union. No. Qaeda is an establishment of Israel and Putin and so on. And basically what they did is go behind what's called behind enemy lines. They conducted warfare behind the Sunni lines, which were fighting against the Soviet Union at that point. And they continue to do so, right? And that's what they were, basic and simple. And ISIS did the same role in Syria and Iraq, they were symbolic at, in fact. And they did what they did. I have seen from a distance, of course, and videos and so on, things that are horror, what these fucks will do in order to sabotage the lines of the Sunnis and so on and so forth. That's their world, folks. That is the world of Ayatollahs, of Putin, of Assad, of Sisi, of the Gulf countries, and beyond, a little bit beyond. The mindset and the dogma is so radically different from what you are accustomed and known in history. Not that they didn't exist before, but now they have materialized and crystallized and manifested as a power entity, and they've been around for a while, right? But my point is this: that world is so radically different. But being different is not the problem. Is what they intend to do to others that are not them, and they're under the umbrella of Netanyahu, which I call Netanyahu's, right? And that's what it is, and basically that's the new world, so if it comes to pass, and it won't, and they sweep over Europe, this Pustaline, they sweep, and the regiment in Moscow sweeps Europe. Europeans, you better find a new place to live or have no children, because the world that is coming, it will be dystopia. Now you may say, again, back to that point where you said, like, in Moscow they don't live dystopia. Well, dystopia will be established in its full sense. When the invasion or takeover, like not just take over politically, but real takeover, like the Soviet Union, has happened. And then you will wake up next day to a world that is like surreal and that you cannot live in. My case in point is very simple, folks. This world is real. I read, like you all did, 1984, right? Which is 1948 plus 3 sixes and so on. And I can tell you, the first thing that strikes you, if you lived in Syria, like I did in the 70s and in the 80s, and heard and so on and so forth about it, and studied and saw how people live and so on, as if that is what they were doing. It's trying to make Syria in 1984. That was before 2011 when people rose up and started going out in demonstrations and so on. They want to rid themselves of this horror that took over. Uh, 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 and so on and so forth. Now, the United States is back. Okay, a separate point now. The United States establishment is working with that tripod, of course, taking back, and I made a video called Sunsetting the United States, taking the back seat and retreating and so on and so forth. But here is a new concept. United States has been, and Germany and England for that matter, and so on, those countries that now hold the technology and finances and so on. Prior to that, it was the Turks, and prior to that were the Arabs and so on. But they are under what's called a transplant operations, plural, right? Not just one operation, transplant. Just after JFK, that's when Israel decapitated the US government. After JFK, and the United States has been constantly subject to a what's called transplant operations. And basically, transplant operations, everything that the United States is, inventions, technology, patents, money, banking, concepts, everything, right? Here in Northwestern Europe, has been gutted and sent over to China and Russia and Iran, of course. Now, Iran is a little bit behind because Iran's current situation is really to take over the Middle East and make it subject completely, way completely to Israel, right? But they could be meantime supported by Russia and China, which happened. You know what happened in Syria. Russia and China came in and helped in restoring that regime, which in 2015 basically was gone, right? And Obama demanded the use of that. He called the removal of the regime a red line, and he ordered the use of gas. Now you may say, oh no, he was talking against the use of gas. No, you don't understand how these guys talk in metaphor. They go very deep in metaphor, that they have now language within a language. They talk on TV, right? And people understand something. When they're really talking about something else, no different from Animal Farm, he tries to insinuate that he's talking about Lenin and Stalin, and you get completely immersed in that concept when he's really talking about Prophet Muhammad and Islam. Really, just go look again. No, I'm not making this up. He tells you in the novel what he is talking about, but his people understand it. However, because now they've been raised and having done that for, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 years or so, they talk in this sophisticated language. Like, I'll give you an example. Rabbi Bill O'Reilly, when he was talking to Trump on TV just prior to the election, and it was very obvious that Trump was wasn't going to win the election in his first term. Well, he only had one term. And Bill O'Reilly said something to him on TV. He said, and I quote, how about delegates' margin of error? And he shook his head. Margin of errors means you pressure the delegates by you being their master and having something against them, right? You threaten them, either they vote for Trump or, so and so is going to happen to them. But that's what he means by margin of error. Sure enough, it worked for them. But it's not just the margin of error. Voting systems are rigged anyway. And Trump's Sidney Powell made that very well known. So that said, folks, what I'm trying to say is there is a new negative world in the making, and it's spreading now, and it's accelerated. It has accelerated in the past couple of decades, in the past decade, right? That's what I would say. And basically, if you don't mind it, that means you got the mentality of an animal. If you do mind it, there are few options for you. One is to really resist, and you need to go into Ukraine and fight, or supply them with weapons. And black market is all over the place. Black market, like weapons, black market, and so on and so forth. And send money or go send medical supplies or food, but you have to come from the West and come on the ground, right? And remember, in supplying Ukraine with weapon, it's not a big deal. From the West, of Ukraine, like Poland and so on, you can come in, right? And if you cannot use the highway due to it being threatened by some, like American satellites telling Russia that, there's so and so here, carry the stuff yourself and move it across. In Afghanistan and in Syria and in Chechnya, they were carrying weapons on donkeys and so on, and dispersed, so they cannot be all hit at the same time, or trucks or whatever the sort. Folks, European, Americans, folks, Middle Eastern folks, make no mistake about what's coming and what's happening. It is now the time or never. Ukraine has done you a great favor, but Ukraine needs to be supplied. And NATO, we know where you stand, but the people of NATO, don't wait until your establishment do something. Do something now. You need to do it on your own grassroots movements, person to person, and bars, churches, or whatever. Notice, they took 2 years with this supposed COVID vaccine and so on. Like, they closed your bars and closed your whatever, right? And notice, it was after the removal of mandates in England and in the US and in Arabia and here and there, they started that war in Europe. Notice, they coincide. Have a nice day, my friends, and thanks for watching my ad-hoc ranting program and the show here on the internet. And I know you're not going to put any comments, but I know you have comments in your mind. I can hear you. Have a nice day, and I wish you luck, all those who are resisting, and take it upon yourself. Don't wait for others to do things for you, or governments, or whatever it is. Take it upon yourself to go into Ukraine and help you in Ukraine, or of help to Ukraine, or in Ukraine, or for Ukraine, as much as you can. Now is the time, folks. Have a nice day, my friends, and goodbye.